Sarah pushed open the heavy door of her penthouse and let her designer bag drop to the floor. She didn't turn on the lights, slumping into a chair as the silence of the room pressed against her. The only sound was the steady, lonely tick of the wall clock. She stared at a small, empty ceramic cup on the table, and looking at its hollow center, Sarah finally broke down and wept. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Another email, another deadline, another person wanting a piece of her time that she didn't have to give. For years, Sarah had been the fixer. She was the one who worked the longest, smiled the brightest, and carried everyone's stress. But tonight, she felt like a machine that had finally run out of fuel. She was tired of being productive, tired of being worthy. She felt like a fraud, a hollow shell of a person who was no longer useful to the world. The air in the apartment felt heavy, so she stepped out onto the balcony. The New York skyline was bright, but all she saw was gray. Next door, her neighbor, Mr. Miller, was standing among his plants. He wasn't looking at the glowing skyscrapers. He was carefully tending to a row of dry, withered stalks in ceramic pots. He moved with a quiet, steady rhythm, as if time didn't exist. Sarah watched him, her eyes stinging with fresh tears. "It's no use, Mr. Miller," she whispered. "Those plants are just like me. They've reached their limit." Mr. Miller didn't look up immediately. He just kept touching the dry leaves with a gentle hand. "I have nothing left to give, Mr. Miller," Sarah said, her voice trembling as she looked at her own shaking hands. "I am completely empty." Mr. Miller wiped his soiled-stained hands on his apron and stepped closer to the railing. He reached into a small wooden crate near his feet and pulled out an old ceramic cup. It was faded blue, covered in a web of fine cracks, with a noticeable chip missing from the rim. It was bone dry and completely empty. He reached across the railing and placed it into Sarah's trembling hands. "Take this," he said, his voice as steady as the city lights. Sarah looked down at the object. It felt cold and light, almost weightless. Mr. Miller leaned in and pointed toward her dark dining room. "I want you to go back inside," he instructed. "Place this cup in the center of your table, in the most important spot in your home. Then, I want you to look at it and say, 'Thank you.'" Sarah stared at him, her exhaustion replaced by sharp confusion. She looked at the dusty, damaged cup and then back at the old man. "I don't understand," she said, her voice rising with a hint of anger. "Why would I do that? It's broken, Mr. Miller. It's dirty and it's empty. It can't hold coffee. It can't hold water. It serves no purpose. Why should I thank something that does absolutely nothing?" She felt a surge of resentment. In her world, everything was measured by its utility. If a tool was broken, you threw it away. If a project was unfinished, it was a failure. To her, this cup was a reflection of her own life, a useless thing taking up space. She wanted to hand it back, to tell him she didn't have the energy for riddles. But Mr. Miller's gaze remained calm and compassionate. He didn't flinch at her frustration. He simply watched her with eyes that seemed to see right through her defenses. "Just try it, Sarah," he said softly. "We spend our whole lives worrying about what is inside the cup, thinking that is the only thing that gives it value. But tonight, I want you to look at the cup itself." Sarah stood there for a long moment, the cold wind of the city biting at her face. The request felt ridiculous. Yet, there was something in Mr. Miller's stillness that made her pause. Slowly, she turned and walked back into her silent apartment, clutching the empty, broken cup against her chest. Sarah set the chipped blue cup on the polished mahogany table. It looked out of place in her expensive home. She sat down, her eyes fixed on the empty space inside the clay. After a moment, Mr. Miller's voice drifted in from the open balcony door, soft and steady. "Sarah," he said, "the world tells us that a cup is only good if it is full. We want it full of water, full of tea, full of gold. We think an empty cup is a broken promise." Sarah didn't look up. She felt the weight of his words pressing against her chest. "But think about this," he continued. "A cup that is already full of bitter water has no room for anything sweet. A cup that is overflowing cannot receive a single drop more. Its purpose isn't to be full. Its purpose is the space it holds. The beauty of the cup is the potential of what it can become." He paused, letting the silence settle in the room like a soft blanket. "You have spent your whole life trying to stay full, Sarah. You filled yourself with deadlines, with titles, and with the needs of everyone else. You thought that if you were ever empty, you would lose your value. You thought that if you stopped producing, you stopped mattering." Sarah's breath hitched. She looked at the fine cracks in the ceramic, the lines that showed where it had been stressed and worn. "But being empty is not a mistake," Mr. Miller whispered. "It is a holy state. It is the time when the clay rests. It is the moment of waiting before the fresh water arrives. Emptiness is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that you are finally ready to receive. It is a sign that you are open to something new, something better, something meant only for you." He stepped into the doorway, his eyes warm with a peace that the city could never give. "Listen to me closely. You don't need to be full of achievements to be worthy of love. You don't need to be useful to be beautiful. You are a masterpiece, whether you are brimming with wine or standing empty on a shelf. You do not need to be full to be valuable. Your existence is a gift, Sarah, even when you do nothing at all. You are worthy simply because you are here." From today's story, we learn that our value is never measured by how much we can hold or how much we can do. Sarah finally understood that her emptiness wasn't a failure. It was a sacred space for healing. Just like that old, chipped cup, you do not have to be perfect or productive to be beautiful. Being empty is simply a season of rest before the next drop of joy arrives. You are a gift to this world, even when you feel you have nothing left to give. If you are feeling drained today, leave a white heart in the comments. Let's embrace this stillness together. Be kind to yourself and remember, you are worthy even when you are empty.